Good afternoon. You're all very welcome to today's CPD webinar, GenAI, What It Can Do For You Today and Tomorrow. You will see the Q&A button on the bottom of your screens, and as all attendees will remain on mute for the duration of the webinar, you're welcome to input your questions here, and they will be answered at the end of the session. We will be recording this webinar and will provide it to you with a link via email later this afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome one of your fellow members, Adrian Cronin of Gas Networks Ireland. Adrian is a member of the CIMA Southern Branch Committee, and along with Conor Kelly, who is Data Engineering Senior Manager with Accenture, they will provide their insights into this game-changing technology. With that, I'll leave you in their capable hands. Welcome, Adrian and Conor.
Hi there, everyone. Hello. I'm going to kick off with slides that will take you through a project that we recently completed with Conor and his team using generative AI in an area that I'm certain that most of you will have very similar problems. There's not going to be anything about me in it really. Okay, look, anyone that's interested can look me up on LinkedIn. A data and IT professional for many years, qualified CIMA accountant, recent fellow. Moving the slide deck on a bit here, if you can see that. Just look a little bit about us. Gas does the kind of heavy lifting in energy when wind doesn't blow. It produces about 60 to 65% of Ireland's energy needs, mainly through the power gen. About 42% of homes have gas, mainly on the East Coast. One of the newest networks in Europe, and we've huge plans for the bio methane industry. The little dot in green near Kildare is an injection point, and there'll be more of those coming. So that's what we do. Going forward. So look, we have about 30,000 businesses that are on gas, and we don't have a commercial arrangement with them. We have shippers who the market was opened in 2001. And shippers provide gas services to businesses. The shippers do have to classify. There's a mandatory field there, the business type. And I suppose when markets have opened, the quality control over this sort of mandatory field has lessened for us. Shippers use their best efforts, but their focus is on other kind of things, like getting their bank account, getting the call closed as well. So shippers have a contact center that people ring into to connect to gas. And however, in the very recent past, the focus on this classification has changed massively. There's a huge focus on reporting, much more diverse reporting from very different sources. Many more stakeholders are looking for it as well. We need to financially model. The business is obviously a fossil fuel shipping business that's going out of fashion, I suppose. So lots of things that we need to look at as well. And this, we have a big issue with the data that we know that it's not where it really should be. This mandatory field. And look, the pressures within business. Business want this data. We can tell them in data finance or whatever else that the facts are difficult to get your head around, or maybe they're not something that you can rely on. But the business wants it. Okay, so we do have we have a big issue, or we had a big issue with about 30% of our business were an unknown business type, or like a local service. So 1 in 3 businesses had a meaningless. They were meaningless to us, and you can see straight away there's some. There is Accenture, third from the bottom. It's an unknown business type. Some fairly obvious ones. There's a doctor's surgery up at the top as well. So if we were to report on, say, the medical profession that's on gas, we'd obviously miss the one up there at the top. So about 1 in 3 of them we kind of knew were just not classified properly. And then, because we had such a long list of close to 90, there's some very obvious errors in there as well. And it's a subjective nature. So there's human element in there. So you can see straight away there's some real howlers in there. Dinos, anyone been to Cork, they know there's a chain of chippers. They're towards the bottom. They're a local service. Now you could argue Dinos does provide food and drink locally to people in the Grange area of Cork. There's a primary school, third from the bottom. It's a primary producer. So maybe the contact center, the person there, English isn't their first language. So they said primary school, that's primary producer because it's a mapping of that word. So big issues here, okay? And it's caused us, a big problem because we now have to report on these 30,000 businesses with a level of accuracy that we hadn't before. So our top 10, it wasn't a very pretty picture. Someone said, look, who are your top 10 businesses? Well, we'll say, well, the top two are we don't know and we don't know. And then we have an idea that the rest are semi-okay. So clearly this wasn't on for an expert gas company, okay? I'm part of a newly formed data competency center. So we're right at the heart of this as well. And I guess that's the edge that CIMA gives you the ability to move into a different function and to apply all of the sort of learning and experience that I suppose the CIMA syllabus teaches. So how could we fix it? Well, we looked at a call center. It's €5 to €6 to make an outbound call. But how do you phone a pub? Who's going to answer the phone? How do you ask someone in the pub if they're drunk? What is this premises? Can you validate the answer? Very difficult and very costly. Do a manual search. We looked at hiring bodies of people, putting them in a room over several months in the summer, but really expensive. How are you going to manage them? How are you going to hire them? What if they leave? The quality control is very difficult to do as well. You could buy it. You could buy a database. Who's going to buy it? Who's going to own it? Who's going to maintain it? Very difficult to do, expensive. And then we have data that's not clean. The addresses don't follow any particular pattern. Some of the addresses are very old, some are new, some have an error code, but most don't. How would you map them? And who would you coordinate it with? Industry change. If I was doing some work on the whole lean area, the kind of 7 whys, the fishbone diagram. We looked at that. Really difficult to change the industry because the shippers are very remote from us. They may look for cost recovery for this as well, i.e. money out of us. And then they have massive churn on their end as well. And what you could have done, which lots of companies do, is they put their head in the sand and they ignore it. Now, that wasn't an option for us. So I was doing some study, some professional development last year, and I came across the generative AI world. We're working with Accenture as a kind of a strategic partner, and bounced the idea with the Accenture team, and we said that we just give it a go. So what we did for a couple of weeks towards the end of last year, we ran a series of very lo-fi experiments. This is an AI image of what it didn't really look like at all, right? But we ran some experiments with the available tools to us, and this is all very new. It's very out there, but trying to get an example and trying to get it architected to work for us was a real challenge, and trying to take all the pieces of Lego together and build something that was kind of secure and fit for what we wanted to do as well. So what we came up with is what I'm going to go into. That sets context, okay? So what we came up with was this team of agents, okay? And we designed this. This is as much detail as I'm going to go into it on the technical side. We took an extract from our legacy system and we broke it out into the addresses and the business types that we wanted them to classify. We wanted the AI agents to classify with. We had 4 agents, which I will go through. They did all the heavy lifting for us, and then we output that to another Excel file, and we'll upload that at the end of the month into our legacy system. So in about a week's time, it's going to be back in the legacy system. So this is really fresh work. So we had some key points. We wanted a private large language model. We didn't want this information getting out there. We wanted it built on our Microsoft platform, cloud-based. Security or data loss prevention is key. And we wanted it to be explainable and understandable. There's a lot of criticism about AI that it's a kind of a magic art or something. So we wanted to make it very clear. And we had to learn some skills, and the Accenture team were excellent here. Natural language prompt engineering was really new. There was a lady working with Accenture Jade, and she was absolutely phenomenal, really good at what she was doing. And figuring out the cost of doing this. There's things called tokens you buy. It's very much like credits for a video game. A very different way of doing IT than we had learned. I mean, we're just about there on cloud, and this was a complete step up again. So we came up with these 4 agents, and we gave them personas and little images as well. you want to call them Vikings, you want to call them whatever else, but each of them was given a persona. They were prompted to be a certain type of person, okay? And the first person was Search, and we called him Search. And they went out to the outside world and they took in as much info as they could on the business. So what they were just fed was the address of the business, okay? And then there was this classify agent, and it was like passing it to a colleague. And Classify's job was to, and these are AI, generative AI, large language models. So it's Chat GPT-4 was what we used, the premium version of it. And these were just instances of it that were prompted to be something, and they were then linked with a kind of a chain linking tool, okay? And that passed the output into Classify, and Classify looked at the list. Now, we were able to work with the business and get the list from 90 down to around 65. So we got it down, but it was still very large. And Classify put the business into one area. And the final two agents were critic, very much focused on audit, very conservative, and had to match perfectly well. And then the final one was confidence. And we added this towards the start of the project. And confidence gave us a level of 1, very low confidence, 5, really high confidence as well. So how is it going? Well, we set our expectations, and they were exceeded. We had a 6-week plan. Bearing in mind, this was kind of new for us. We did it in 4 weeks. We got 98.8% accuracy, which blew us away totally. I was drafting a generative AI policy in parallel as well, and that was really, really useful because we were doing it, but I was making sure it was being done within a sort of very much within towards the way our policy would be going as well. This image, they aren't real people. Although what's interesting enough, this is the same color lanyard we use in Gas Networks Ireland. That's the same type of furniture and monitor we use. And the guy on the far right, who's cut in half with the red tie, looks like one of our senior directors. And the guy in the middle, who's bald, looks like one of our senior finance team. It's scary. And this looks like one of our stores buildings in Finglas. So the technology is extremely powerful. And I just looked at the image and went, this could be in our business. It's just, it's frightening almost. So going to go into a bit of detail. So every single address got the four critic or the 4, I suppose, chain treatment, 4 agent treatment. This is Ferrero. They make Tic Tacs in Cork on the way to the airport on the left-hand side. They've been around Cork for many years. So it just shows you, it went to the Dun & Bradstreet, the Compass database to get the facts about it, summarized the facts into clear points, and it gave a classification of food processing from the list that we had given it. And it gives a confidence level, and then it gives an explanation as to why it gave it 5, okay? And it quotes the Bloomberg solo check in bits and pieces. So Ferrero is a very solid 5, okay? Let me give you more complex site. Anyone that's familiar with the city of my birth, Cork, there's St. Finbert Hospital. It's a large medical campus situated fairly close to the city. It's been many things. It's about 180 years old. It was a maternity hospital. It was a famine relief, sort of a kind of a work house place. It has a lot of services that are going on there as well. And the unusual thing is they all share the same address of 156 Douglas Road, Cork. And in there is a very dirty address. And probably something that I should have said was we didn't clean our data up at all. We said, look, this is a proof of concept. We'll just throw it in. And we found that there was a national school there as well, a girls' national school about 1.6 kilometers from the campus, but it shared the same address. So the date was wrong. And I'm just going to call out the job that it did for us. There's a picture of the campus. It's 20 acres. It's quite large. And you can see that there's a church in there, and it correctly classified it as a place of worship. There's an incinerator there, an address for one, and it correctly classified it as waste water and wastewater, because that's the only category that it could have fitted into. And then it also classified the school in there as well as a school. Now, if you'd given that to a team of people who were in some project office for the summer, they'd probably see the same address and say, "Oh, that's just a hospital." And you'd miss out the nuance of a school, the incinerator, and the place of worship as well. And this is the kind of explanation that we're getting. So this is the place of worship. Now, I'm just going to call out something. It goes back to when the place was built in 1915. It mentions a trip advisor page of churches and cathedrals in Cork to visit as well. And this is the language that was output. So each of our 30,000 businesses has this explanation there. So if anyone says to me, "Adrian, look, I'm not sure that the classification you've given this business works," I'll say, "Well, I will give you the explanation and maybe we can have a chat about it." This is a level of detail that we wouldn't even dream of getting. You would not get this off any other way of doing it. It is absolutely incredible. And the level of detail in there is just literally, it's just huge. I went there. It's very close to the office. I took a spin up there one Friday morning, and back on audio. Yeah, just pulled it out there. So yeah, it's a church. Investigations on foot. Okay. The incinerator. It gives it a 4 because it doesn't advertise its services publicly. So it's a solid, okay? It is an incinerator. Hospitals do have them. Useful for us to know in the gas business because an incinerator is a very high heat load and very hard to electrify. So there are customers that are very sticky to gas. They're hard to move to a different type of fuel. And we need to know who those customers are so we can target them for maybe moving to cleaner fuel, gas, or whatever else, right? But it gives it a 4 because it doesn't sell it. So really good. Now, what we found was schools in Ireland, oftentimes they have college in the name, like Blackrock College and Clongowes College. They got a confidence level of 1 because the models are trained on US data mainly. Then the US colleges would be 3rd level. So it was saying what it is doing the junior cert and leaving cert syllabus, we're giving it a confidence of 1 because college means a third kind of a 3rd level entity. So that was really interesting learning for us as well. And I just went out there and looked around on the site. There is no way that you'd know what any of these were. Even if you had limitless resources and said, we're going to blanket bomb the country with people, men and women walking around, taking pictures of meters, there is no way you'd know what that means. They're not attached to any business classification. The only one that you could identify is the one in red, which is the blood board, the blood transfusion board. The one on the far left is the church. But there is no way you would even know what they are. So human effort wouldn't even be able to do it. Accurate information now was taken on a whole new list for us. So our top 10 looks really, really good. We have restaurants, which would make sense. And most of our gas is on the East Coast. That's just the way Ireland is built, and where gas is, where the population density is. And restaurants need a lot of heat. They cook food, and gas is the fuel of choice for kitchens. Schools, they have large areas to heat. In the East Coast, generally connected to gas. Retail outlets make sense, and so on down along. So what we found is we've more hotels than we had thought. We've way more pubs than we thought, and we've more restaurants than we thought. So now we have unbelievably accurate, and I show you the accuracy level here. We did a manual audit. Again, this is where kind of CIMA learning would come into play. Stuff you'd have covered in your exams around, the confidence levels and trying to work out the sort of standard deviations and accuracy and so on. So we did random sampling for each of the 5 confidence levels, and we did that manually, and we came up with an accuracy level of 98.76%, which, like, in our wildest dreams, we weren't even getting there. So we're looking now at running this maybe twice a year to keep it kind of an up-to-date effort as well for us. What we learned, I guess, look, it delivered in spades for us, okay? And curious minds were rewarded. And oftentimes that's difficult for companies. I was quite lucky, but I was like a dog with a bone. This was a problem that I came across towards the start of last year. And I was dogged in trying to get it fixed, but all the traditional ways that I went through earlier, I had tried and looked at, and they were just, the money was so high. It would be a massive project trying to buy in stakeholders. It would be a huge effort costing hundreds of thousands of euros, money that the customer, which is ultimately all of us, would have borne. And like I said, with the continuing study I was doing, coming across generative AI and having worked with the great guys in Accenture and with Conor and Jade, we were able to get this done. It is a massive challenge for businesses. It's an agile. We applied an agile way of getting this project done. It got the work done faster than we are used to getting work done, and this is an issue for businesses. And I will say this reality is here. Massive interest by the staff as well, and having some private conversations with people over coffee. Staff are using AI, generative AI, privately on their phones. Some of it's bleeding into work as well. We've developed an AI policy. I use the EU I act as the kind of North Star on it. I would recommend people look at it. What I also recommend is put it into GPT-4 and get it to summarize it and query it based on your business as well. And just to put paid to the myth, generative AI hasn't taken work from anybody. This was work no one could have paid to do, and you would never have done it properly. But it's enabled a lot of value add work. We have massively valuable data now we can use as a really precious commodity to satisfy lots of different stakeholder demands as well. But it will erode mundane and non-value add tasks, and senior leaders need to factor this into it. And I will call out the education piece. I am pretty much self-educated on it. I did a small bit of formal study on it. The EU AI Act calls this out, so I would say watch this space. But for now, we definitely learned by doing. I have a little bit of time here, which I'd like to just use, if it's okay with people, just to do some of the kind of more, I guess, parlor trick type stuffs as well, right? I'll upload a Vodafone annual report, query it, do some ratio analysis and stuff very quickly. I have a spreadsheet I'll upload and show you the power of that. And I'll put in a picture and I'll query that as well, just to give people a sense of the power of it. And this is the more future aspects of it. I'm going to stop sharing this, okay, if that's okay. And I am going to share screen here on now this is live television, so anything could happen, okay? And I'll share this, okay? So bear with me a second here, everybody. Okay, into GPT-4. So I'm going to upload here, if people can see that screen. This is the new version. It's GPT-4.0. It dropped last week. This is a premium account that I have for my own personal use. I'm going to upload from my computer. It's natively integrated now into my Word. I'm going to open Vodafone's most recent annual report from last year. This is it's a whopper. It's 11 megs. I think it's 200 plus pages. So I have uploaded it into GPT-4 here. Takes a bit because the file size is quite large, and I will update it. It will update it as a PDF. I download it from the web. It takes a quick read through it, and what is the current ratio for Vodafone? So Vodafone as a company, share price has taken a bath over the last couple of years. I have some shares in it from the old Aircom days, going way back. I just never sold them. So it's a kind of a hobby interest for me. Current ratio, actually 1.27. And so it just, there you go, tells you. So it's 0.89, right? So it's low. Is this good or bad? If you're learning accounting, it's a phenomenal tool. Tells you what the current ratio is. There you go. Negative implications, investor confidence. Yeah, well, that's the share price is taking a bit of a nosedive. And what is the ARPU, average revenue per user for Vodafone? Don't know how many customers they have, but that's a metric that's used in the mobile phone business. So again, I haven't read that. There you go. It tells you what it is. If you don't know what ARPU is, it'll work it out. And may vary. It will work it out. Tell me what it is. Okay, so you kind of get the gist. This is like a super brain. You query in natural language. Okay. Just keep an eye on time here. I don't want to bore anyone with a kind of a clock that's spinning around. Do one last trip on Vodafone and move on. Okay. Okay, now there you go. So it's giving me a bit more detail than I'm interested in, but it tells me, you know, bits and pieces. Graph the net profit for the past 3 years. So if you say doing quick financial analysis of any company you're doing, if you're in business, you know, in a practice, you could upload it. Obviously, to be mindful of privacy and bits and pieces, but you know, the Vodafone account's in the public domain as well. There you go. There you go. So I don't know. I've no idea what those figures are, but you can see, look, they're back on the road. And then final question: why is 2023 so good? So again, this is ordinary language, not anything. Gain on disposal of Vantage Towers. Now, I'd be aware of that being a very, very small shareholder, right? But it tells you. So why would you sit down and read the annual account when you can just query it? Okay. Now, I'm going to move on from that, right? I'm going to look at something that's a little more interesting. We're doing some paving out the back. Hopefully, we'll get it done in the next couple of weeks. I took some back of the envelope drawings. I lost the piece of paper. I found it again, and here it is, right? I'm uploading. These are my scribbles. I went out one day and measured it, wrote it down. And so it's converting my squiggly sprawl into into text in real time. The speed is incredible. Now there's an issue. You can't see it on the image, but the second measurement. So second measurement is 12 multiplied by 2. Okay, so there's a correction. The writing was quite faint, and it just works it out again, right? Paving. Do I need to buy? Okay, there you go. So it's worked out calculations. I don't even need volume, area by depth and stuff. So, and with a little bit of wastage. I mean, there you go. Like it's incredible. And that's just from me doing some rough doodlings on the back of a piece of paper. And I want to do one more image because the image is quite interesting. So I was very fortunate enough to get away recently for a golf trip with some pals to a very sunny part of the world. And one of the lads, I could picture him background, and he's golfing. What dangers are in this picture? So the picture, you hopefully you'll see it there, but it's one of the guys playing with us. He came up short on water protected green, and he dropped his ball. So he had to take a shot. I'll go up to the picture. He had to take a shot from a kind of a drop zone. He was in very good company. Marland is obviously right up next to the pin. I'm joking, but so it's a nice kind of snapshot, right? And it goes through the hazards, the water hazard. He could fall in and drown. A risk of losing his golf ball, which he did. And the one he hit there went in also. There's rough terrain. He could risk of falling. Proximity to trees or bushes. The sun exposure. Potential wildlife. Like this is, to me, it's a game changer, right? If you're in the health and safety business, now you've got a tool in your pocket for $20 a month that can do a very, very rough and ready analysis. The last one, and I promise the last one, I'm the open data officer at work as well, and we're covered under the open data directive. And every quarter we publish the daily gas demand for Ireland, right? And it's a CSV spreadsheet. It's thousands of lines long, right? Can you graph gas demand for months for 2022? Okay, so again, something that like someone hands you this, all right, I want you to do a report on this for me, please. This is a really boring spreadsheet. It's thousands of lines of CSV long, and the analysis, there you go, it's done. And then what I want to say, what day had the most demand? Right. So like you could put that into a spreadsheet, Excel, you could boil a kettle, go and make a cup of tea, sit down and go, oh my goodness. Now in real time, you can query it. And now you can also tell it what the units are. They're in megawatt hours, right, on the side. And there you go, it tells you power gen used 13 points. So there you go, power stations, units. And you can tell it loads of things as well. Okay, that's it from me. I'm going to stop sharing on that front. So look, I'll throw it over to, I'll stop sharing right this, and I'm going to go back to sharing because Conor has to jump in with a couple of bits and pieces at the end. I'll share this screen, and Conor, I'll jump down to your slides there if that's okay with you.
Right.
Yeah, super.
Brilliant, right. So thanks, Mel, for having me today. I'm just going to come in and discuss just the final bits, right? Just from Accenture's perspective, if we can just click the next slide, Adrian. So
sorry, yeah.
Within, I think, every company, right? GenAI is a generative AI and large language models. It's the hot and when it comes up in nearly every meeting. I think one kind of key point as well, probably to go back on that Adrian has mentioned, right? Why companies and why Accenture are kind of seeing a lot of clients with regards to usage of large language models. It's because firstly the experience. You can see there from the examples that Adrian's gone through. It's incredible some of the stuff that you can actually do with it in terms of productivity and how you can actually harness it, but it's availability as well, right? So unless companies and clients so far are kind of thinking about how they're going to harness it, but in the safest, most secure kind of way, people will utilize it. They'll utilize the kind of the free sources of OpenAI and GPT. And look, they're only getting better, they're only getting smarter, as people use it kind of more and more. Looking at from Accenture's perspective, so the World Economic Forum in Davos happened there recently, and you can see there kind of some of the quotes from the CEO of Accenture. One of the key ones, I think, for me is actually two of them. Right, so the one in the middle, which is we didn't have a responsible PC or a responsible cloud, but a huge part of what we do with clients day in, day out is how we use this responsibly. The ethics behind it, even in Ireland alone within Accenture, one of the kind of heads of our legal counsel would have now kind of taken on the role of the EMEA, looking at the ethics involved in AI, and obviously coming back to that point around the EU AI Act, recently enough as well, would have seen in the UK, Rishi Sunak starting the council for AI as well in terms of security and how to safely use it. And the second one there, just on the page, usually we would run panels, we'd run discussions, kind of fireside chats, those sorts of things. Actually, what we did is we took the opportunity to take 150 executives within companies and run workshops. Like, what is the technology? How is it being used? What's actually sitting behind it? We've reached kind of a point, I suppose, just from a computing perspective, we're actually able to do this. But like, why now? And that is really because the large language models that sit behind this they've gotten better at kind of speech, text, and all that sort of recognition. but they've gotten to a point potentially in some areas that's arguably kind of more efficient and more productive than human, right, in terms of human performance. And if we can just go to the next page now, because I do want to just stay on that point in regards to the human element of it, right? None of the clients that we work with at the moment from Accenture's perspective, within the generative AI space and within large language models, it's very much a how do we use this tool, and as kind of mentioned by Adrian as well, to be as productive as we kind of can. So like take away some of maybe the mundane tasks, the kind of consolidating of new regulation that might come out from an accounting perspective. What are the key points that I need to know? That kind of consumption of annual reports as well. And just in the kind of middle there, I have a point around kind of we have 20 and kind of growing research papers. And actually a lot of the research that we do, so there is the technology side of it, how can we use it? But the adoption part of it is massive, right? So a lot of the research that we do is in the kind of human behavior space. And we are kind of monitoring how, as we implement solutions with clients, humans are interacting with the technology, and kind of how we can kind of make sure that happens as responsibly and as safely as possible. Some of the stuff is very interesting in terms of as you introduce these tools into clients, you'll get you'll naturally get people who might be skeptical of the tool and will kind of read every single word that's coming out of it. You'll get people that are over kind of zealous maybe with it and trusting it too much, because at the end of the day, it's not an autopilot yet. For some tasks, it is still kind of co-pilot. It's going to get you 50, 60, 70% of the way in the task. That doesn't mean that you kind of use it. So you get this kind of trust metric in it. And over time, you kind of get to the point where, it's you within your organization, it's kind of working very well. And we've got very all in on it, like 40,000 kind of AI and data specialists. We're pretty much all focused on where you're not kind of upskilled within the technology, you have to be. And we've opened up some global innovation centers. Recently enough, I can see kind of stats coming out. I think 75% of people are kind of in the knowledge worker space are using AI tools already, which is absolutely, I suppose, outstanding. And within that as well, within the last 6 months, 46% of that 75% have actually started. So you can see some stats down there that I've just put one in, and I actually arguably think the number is higher there. But it's potentially going to impact about 40% of all working hours across pretty much every industry. We've done research where that changes per industry. Obviously, generative AI is and large language models, they're very kind of useful in kind of text-based, image-based, video-based kind of analysis and kind of going through those types of tasks. So it will change per industry, right? One is, let's say, the legal industry. It's going to absolutely kind of maybe revolutionize it, right, in terms of what they actually do. A lot of it is text-based stuff. So they're going through the throes at the moment of figuring out kind of as safely as possible how do we go into this. I'm going to stop there. Just wanted to give a sense of, from an Accenture perspective, why this technology is so important, and kind of what we're doing at the moment with it. Very much.
So I see a couple of questions have come in there. I've answered as many as I can, but look, question there on why the use of ChatGPT due to privacy issues. Yeah, look, it's blocked within our company, straight up it is. We have a policy, it's out for review. There is, as Conor pointed out, there's huge issues around the ethics of it, what you can and can't do. The policy spells those out. It's locked down right now. That won't always be the case. We're doing a Copilot try as well, Microsoft Copilot, and the the IT team in our business are doing an AI strategy. Someone saying, why GPT? Well, look, we tried other models, lo-fi, that low resolution sort of work we did back in the envelope stuff late last year. It was just performed the best. There are alternatives out there, but OpenAI's GPT-4, and I would say GPT-4o now, surpassed anything that we were looking at. And it's got the backing of Microsoft as well, which gives us a lot of comfort. We're a very conservative business, and having the Microsoft money that's got into it and its integration with the Microsoft kind of architecture that we use is one of the reasons. A question came in there about reaction from staff to it. Look, yeah, there's a lot of hype out there about generative AI. Look, I'll be straight up. I'm an optimist about it. I'm old enough to have seen lots of fearful things not come to pass. I think the potential here is huge, but as Conor pointed out, the impact on work is going to be big. It's impacting, like, if I'm doing anything in my private life, I'm straight away reaching for generative AI. Someone mentioned the Perplexity search engine. It's a game changer, and it's an AI-powered search engine. And Google's recent announcement last week at their event, the I/O event, they are mimicking it now. They will change search. So I would recommend, yeah.
Just to jump in, actually, just on two of those points. So, like, from a security perspective, anyway, right? So it's a big space, right? If we think about kind of what Accenture and other companies do, but how that impacts like clients and how they use it, it's a new space. How do you architect kind of those solutions, but how do you make sure that they are as secure as possible? Data is not being kind of leaked out and being kept for agreed periods of time. So, like, from an OpenAI perspective, I believe ChatGPT, right, that it's 30 days. They're those that they keep, but I think that's only for abuse monitoring. So, like, basically to make sure that nothing too bad is happening within that space. That's prompts and that's documents. So if you do upload it, that within the space, that like it will be there. So yeah, caution where it is due, but that's the one is being uploaded, right? And then in terms of the alternatives as well of like what we would have used. So yes, you can use other LLMs. And actually it's great to see at the moment, because what's happening is there's a small bit of competition with regards to the cost of that, right? And that comes into, okay, well, if you're going to pitch yourself to a certain kind of LLM or one of those offerings, that might change in a period of time, because the cost of actually using that might come down over a period of time as well. And so yeah, just to jump in on those two questions there.
Yeah, and I guess to pick up on that point about costs, what we had found was when we started the effort in sort of towards the end of March, and we finished it, as the competition had come more to the fore, the cost of tokens, the processing tokens we were buying, they dropped by 50%. And the ability to do batches was announced as well. So this would have made our work cheaper and potentially faster. And that was within a sort of 4-week period of time. So it's an incredibly fast moving area. And that's another challenge. We're a business that likes to plan ahead, because when we do something, it stays in the ground for decades. And something that's moving this quickly, it's difficult to strategize and difficult to factor in. We like budgets. Accountants generally do. The budgeting cycle for this is interesting because it's very changeable even, or whatever else. And picking up on a question there, a lot of businesses are just saying, look, we're going to close this down. But I'd say to any business that's doing that, staff are using it. They have phones in their pocket. It's on phones. In their private life, it will be. I've met several people working in different companies. They use it for their end of year reviews. Not to lie, but to write in a more attractive language. And there's a positive benefit to someone who maybe is neurodiverse, who maybe reading and writing isn't their forte, right? The world's full of very diverse people. And generative AI gives them an assistance. And as Conor said, it's not an autopilot, it's kind of a co-pilot, or like an augmentation. None of us would dream of walking from Cork to Dublin. We get in a bus, a car, or a train. But years ago, we could only walk there. So this is an augmented ability. And I think there'll be lots of positive uses. But look, the nature of humans is there will be bad actors. That is just reality in any technology. Like people steal cars. Cars aren't bad, but when they're driven recklessly, they are. So I think there will just be another layer to the world of work that has massive potential, but comes with its own set of risks as well.
Just to sorry.
I might jump in there. Actually, I think my name is Eric Rochford. I'm a member of the Southern Area Committee and member in practice and chair of the member in practice committee. I was asked to field some of the Q&A for today, but thanks to Adrian, he has answered a lot of the questions as they came in there on screen, and I think you've addressed some of them there just over the last few minutes. I have to say this is probably one of the most interesting and intriguing CPDs that I've seen in a long while. I think the term game changing is bandied around a lot as probably an overused term at this stage. This area it truly is it's game changing. It's just the power is quite incredible. The images that you put up on screen there, and just when you chatted around some of the images and how they're created, it's incredible. It's kind of scary in one sense, but it's quite incredible actually when you see the power of it. And we're still at the very beginnings of this in one sense, I suppose. I think, as I said, you covered off many of the questions that came in there, and thanks for that. But I suppose just some others as well. Just in terms of the organization, your own organization, how hard was it to get buy-in in terms of Gas Networks Ireland? And I suppose what was the overall reaction to the project at the other end then when you came out and you were able to produce the results and the quite incredible results there, and the as you said, it's an area that nobody could physically probably get to.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. Yeah, that's an excellent question. It was a problem I came across at the beginning of last year. I was doing work on a kind of a lean project, and buy-in was very hard, Eric. I'll straight up. A lot of the questions coming through, a lot of the feedback I'm seeing from people, the company is very conservative, and they were very afraid of privacy elements, the risk. Another vector of attack, cybersecurity is paramount for us. We own and operate critical infrastructure. And it was a really tough sell. Look, I've been round the block, and I guess a lot of people I've met my age seem to be quite set in their ways. I'm quite elastic and open to learning. And I was able to bring my experience of stakeholder management and influencing to bear, and my contacts made in the company to sell it in a kind of a risk-free way. We were very lucky to partner with Accenture as well, that gave that level of comfort. But it was a difficult sell, Eric, right? And a lot of the senior people across the business, they thought generative AI was hype, that it was like the blockchain, it was like the metaverse. It was here today, gone tomorrow, replaced by something else. A lot of the use cases we'd seen didn't really apply to us. Some of the hype, writing songs and making pictures, that's not what we do. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. I have a little short version of this deck that I give to people in the business to educate them about the power of it. And we have a very long list of proof of concepts and people that want it addressed as well. So going from a place of extreme skepticism to a place where people now see the potential. And I guess what's key is here, this was very much a risk-free effort. It was quite contained. The risk of failure was quite low. We weren't letting it get at anything that it could do damage with. And my own view with technology like this is, imagine if someone was new in your business. You wouldn't give them the most complex job. Someone qualifies from Trinity or UCD, or a freshly qualified CIMA graduate who's quite young. You wouldn't let them write your annual report, right? You get them to do something quite small. And that was very much behind what I wanted to do. Start a small patch of this, right? And then take a look and reflect. It was a proof of value, which it delivered. That will feed into a much larger formal pilot that will emerge as well. Yeah, that was the sort of genesis and the end of it.
Good. I suppose following on from that, then what would be I assume with the positive results that and it speaks for themselves there, what would, I suppose, this lead to in future, and what are there any future plans, I suppose, in terms of Gas Networks Ireland for AI? Maybe take that, or maybe a similar product. I'm sure at this stage you've got a certain amount of buy-in now, and it's you're probably in the door, so to speak.
A big thing for us, and I was lucky enough to speak at a conference on this in Cork recently to some other data professionals, and I was approached by a very large retailer. They have huge issues with their addresses. It's a common issue right across the board, because generally addresses come in through a contact center, through a field force team, through a kind of a CRM app. Accuracy can be very poor, and it can lead to a lot of issues, duplicate addresses and bits and pieces. So we have other areas in the business where we need to look at the address of our assets, and we have used very traditional methods that have been costly. The effectiveness is questionable, but there was no other way of doing it. So it's almost as if you had to walk from Cork to Dublin, and it took you days and you were tired at the end of it. This has given people the ability to imagine a world where they can drive from Cork to Dublin, if that analogy can make sense to people. It's moved their thinking, and I'm surprised at how quick people were to move thinking. We also have, that picture I put up there of buddy of mine golfing. We have issues with analysis of pictures. We take pictures of the installations we do. We employ people to quality check. But let's be honest, there's hundreds of thousands of pictures up on our enterprise systems. And people make the best effort to check. There is a future world where that could be done, and I'll address the job issue. No one has got the bandwidth to review all the job images. There'll be ones that AI cannot do. It will output something. This is, in my head, a future potential scenario. And, other people in the business are seeing further uses. Some of the senior team are interested in getting them ideas for away days, for kind of team bonding sessions. You can ask it to generate games. You can prompt it. The more prompting you put in. So I think that it's difficult to say exactly what will happen, but I would say analysis of imagery will be key for us in terms of the assets, their health, and bits and pieces. Yeah.
I think even from a CIMA accountants, the opportunity here is huge, and not to take away from our work, but to enhance our work and to be able to, I suppose, move away from any non-value adding or there's still a lot of data work that we probably do day to day. It would allow us to kind of move away from that almost fully, and to really get into the exception reporting and to be able to focus on what we really need to do. So it's hard to see it taken away from those type of roles, as you said. It certainly would enhance it more than anything else. Just two more questions there that have just come in. Did you need Accenture to set up your Vikings, or would you be able to manage that yourself using a premium chat GPT?
We lent on Accenture's development team for that. They used a tool that links the large language models. I don't know what Catherine's ability is in terms of IT coding and bits and pieces. I have a background in it, and if someone said, "Look, your life depends on doing this in the next week, Adrian," I'd be very confident that I could do it, right? But that's an unlikely scenario, right? But there is, Anyway, Conor.
I think arguably you could do it yourself, right? So, what's sitting behind the actual solution is Python code, is OpenAI's GPT, and then LangChain, which kind of links those kind of the whole thing together, basically, and then Excel. So the problem is though, like any solution, I suppose you can run experiments with kind of low numbers, or documents or Excels or whatever that might have a small amount of data in it. Once you start to ramp that up, that's where you need kind of, obviously, a bit. You start to struggle to do that from a laptop anymore, and start to go from there. But the answer, kind of straightforward, is yes, it is possible to do it yourself if you want it.
Yeah, and just another question, which is, it's more of a general question, maybe open to both of you, just around AI in general. Can you recommend any courses to get more information on AI? I know this is a new area and there's probably a lot opening up on this at the moment. As you said, you're kind of self-taught on it up to now.
It's a good question. I'd be very wary of people offering an expertise. I was offered a course. It was several thousand euro, and they were claiming they had a GenAI expert with 5 years experience. This field is 18 months old, right? So like, I mean, how can this person have 5 years experience? It's like job ads that say prompt engineer wanted, minimum 7 years experience of prompt engineering. It's 18 months old. So I'd be aware of it. It's been called out by the EU and their AI Act. I've been looking at SkillNet and bits and pieces for the Irish government's response. Haven't seen a whole lot there. It's a challenge for universities straight off the bat because of people doing their assignments with it. You kind of learn by doing. It's a frontier technology, and a lot of the sites do have some useful resources. There are people online. There are some podcasts and YouTube channels that you can follow. If you Google it, you get some hits. And a lot of these people are setting up their own academies that are online. You pay a subscription and bits and pieces. But I think it's such a frontier technology that hasn't emerged yet. It's my own view.
Yeah, and I think you gave, a useful piece of advice there as well earlier, the European AI Act. I think just to take a look at that, and as you said, you can put into chat GPT.
I would. I think
it's a good starting point for a lot of people just to kind of get their head around it.
Yeah, and put in and prompt it and say, and just prompt it like natural language. Talk to it. Say like, I am very interested in learning more about AI. I'm going to upload the EU AI Act. Can you tell me what I need? And you really have to go there with context and ask your questions and, take a look. But I would be honest, I would just be cautious, the kind of buyer beware. There are people offering courses. Now, I'm confident some of them are superb and bits and pieces, but just look at the provenance of who's behind it and take a look at it. Just beware, Yeah.
I think on it as well, though, like from online training where it's not paid for, like still the likes, well, there's a subscription, like Udemy are still good, like in terms of the courses that they offer, even from kind of your basic AI to moving on. And then the key players as well that actually offer the technology to be able to do this do put out learnings. So the likes of Microsoft, the likes of Google, the likes of AWS, and like a lot of what's being run is on their infrastructure, but they do offer kind of a good bit in terms of like that basic understanding of what's happening right through to and stuff as well. So yeah, from a non-paid perspective, they're advice.
Yeah, I suppose just one last question. I suppose maybe it might be more towards Conor on this side, but this obviously opens up. There's huge opportunities, but there's obviously a lot of risks, I suppose, as well. And I suppose when you look from a control point of view, there's some moral issues, maybe some GDPR issues as well. So I suppose what are your kind of main concerns around this, and how do you see those being kind of mitigated? I know this is very much an ongoing, it's an ongoing technology and it's kind of racing ahead at a pace, but I suppose how do you see that kind of playing out over the next kind of, I was going to say years, next few months, I suppose, really 6-12 months maybe, because it's obviously quite a hot topic.
So I think the key concern that we're kind of seeing, so like we're very kind of it needs to be used responsibly, it needs to be used ethically, right? But everyone has access to it right now. So companies, for our clients, need to be thinking about, look, if your employees aren't going to be offered a solution in-house that is safe, that where they're using it, people will use it outside of that. So, for me, the key concern is like companies just addressing that point, kind of going by the policy, going by the act, understanding it, and then kind of paving that path forward for themselves to make sure that they know from an AI and a GenAI perspective what they're going to be doing.
Okay, I suppose much like policies that you'd integrate with your own company policies as well, an IT policy or whatever, that it almost becomes part of that, or very much integrated with those policies as well, maybe. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it, I think, on the questions, and we're probably up around 2 p.m. now. So again, I found this an incredibly interesting presentation. We could probably spend all day on it, but yeah, it's I'm sure it's one that we'll revisit again in future.
Thanks a lot for the chance to talk. And look, again, I'm a big fan of CIMA, and a lot of what I learned, I was able to bring to bear, and the influence to get this across the line, stakeholder management, and kind of selecting a project as well that seemed to land. So I will give the kudos to CIMA as well. Yeah. So look, hopefully people liked it, and I think you can watch it back, send it to your friends and family, promote this, the great work that Conor and CIMA have done, and the benefits of CIMA education as well. Thanks a lot.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks. And we're a big fan of you, Adrian, too, here in CIMA. Before we do go, thanks so much on behalf of CIMA Ireland, obviously, as I said before, and to Conor, obviously, as well. And it was just really insightful and very eye-opening, to be completely honest. And obviously to Eric as well, we really appreciate your participation and your time today. Before we do sign off today, I'd like to draw your attention to our upcoming CPD webinar scheduled for Thursday, the 13th of June, where our panel will be introducing CSRD, the challenges and solutions for business. So scan the QR code to register now. I'll include this in the link with the follow-up email, so we hope you can join us then. So thanks again, everybody, for attending. We hope you found it beneficial. I'll send out a follow-up email, as Adrian said, with a recording of the presentation. Thank you all. Take care. Bye now.